Hello everyone. This is just a quick discussion on the requirements of the first individual assignment for online students enrolled in PDE, and also show you just an example of the assignment, that what it could look like from my perspective. According to the assessment criteria, is in high quality. So for the first assignment, it's due 10th of September by 9 a.m. Monday, 10th of September. And this is a formatting requirement. You will notice there's marks allocated against the formatting. You need to submit via the submission link. Now it's already been set up on LMS. Please allow extra time for generating the originality report. The first time when you submit the assignment, the originality report comes out very quickly. However, when you submit the second time to check, it might take up to 2 or 3 days. So I think my advice to you is you submit the draft very early, whenever it is available, then to check the issues, and then at least 2 or 3 days before the due date, you submit a semi-final version, so that by due date you will have a version that you're really confident in, free of plagiarism and misconduct concerns. I'm sure that many students will not have issues of it, but sometimes we do make mistakes, accidentally copy things from other sources, and forget to reference. The first individual assignment weighs 25%. Word limits around 1,500 words, and you will see each of sessions are limited by word allocation. So you need to pay attention to the particular requirements for each session of your assignment. So background is you've got there's funding resources available for your organization to apply for it. And before designing the project and submit funding application, you are asked to conduct a needs analysis so that you can feed the information into the funding application, the team who's writing the funding application, designing the project, to design a project that will likely get funded for. So this is the requirement, you look at it. However, it's just a guide. If you just say funding requirements, and many students will get lost from the information, so I provided more guidance. However, you can feel free to choose the topics that interest you, including service improvements, as long as, because the purpose is to demonstrate that you have the skills and you have good understanding of what needs analysis is, and you are able to put a plan together and conduct a simple needs analysis. Majority of the online students should have been working for an healthcare organization, so you just simply choose the organization as your OSPI body, as the hospital body of your project. That means your organization is going to put an application in, and you conduct a needs analysis for the organization. You need to identify a problem for investigation, anything that interests you. Then you get the evidence to prove there's urgent needs, the consequences that we may face if the needs are not addressed. So you argue the urgency for the funding for, and the first service gaps, and also existing capacity of the organization or other organization in addressing this need. So that's further confirming the gaps of the services. Then you identify any possible solutions for addressing those needs, learning from past experiences, not just not subject to Australian experience, but also experience learned overseas. Then take into consideration of the context of where the problems are, the population the problems that affecting, and the organization, the geographic location, all these factors. Then you recommend the most suitable solutions or strategies and interventions in addressing those needs and solving these problems. So that's the end of the needs analysis. So what do you need to provide is provide a report. So that means By the time you write a report, you would have completed your needs analysis, and then you reporting what you have found. But please be reminded, due to the limitation of the time that you have got, and also there's no ethic approval provided to the work that you've done, please do not adopt any methods in your needs analysis that require the contact with human beings. If within your organization, this is something your organization support, and with the agreement or endorsement, you can talk to people within the organization. However, do not call other people outside in order to get the data they want. So you focus on finding the data that's already been collected. Or you can use the data that study conducted by someone else. For example, if they conducted an interview, conducted surveys, then you can use the data, but you're not the one going to conduct the interview or conduct the survey. You can use data from a government department, you can use the service data from your organization, you can use data from collected by ABS, Australian Bureau of Statistics, any existing databases. So in your report, you should have a number of sessions. One is just an introduction and background of your needs analysis. So what the problems you have identified that form the focus of investigation. So the background of your needs analysis should not be more than 150 words. And then in a table, then you detail the key steps that you have or you would have taken in order to gathering the information. So why would I say you have or you have? Because some steps might be really critical to answering the needs analysis questions. However, due to the limitations what I just mentioned, you cannot take those steps. Some data are very important for your needs analysis. However, those data are not available to you, so you couldn't complete the steps. So in your table, you should list all the key steps initially that you plan for a good comprehensive needs analysis in answering your questions. Then in one of the columns, you will indicate if these steps were not taken because of what. So I will know that you do understand the key step you need to take in order to identify all those important information, and what step that you did take, what step you couldn't take, then what evidence I would expect to see that you used in developing the report. Okay, so there's two parts of your assignment, and then you have the part two. So the part one is your introduction and also needs analysis steps. Part two is the report. It should include what's the problems that identified with evidential support, no more than 500 words. And then for that problems, you also need to look at the first service gap and the capacity for addressing this problem. So that's 500 words. And then within another 500 words, you discuss what you have found in the literature that approaches and relevant intervention that can address the problems. Then at the end of the session, within 200 words, you make recommendations in consideration of what you have found and the context of the organization, the special needs and the population, and all the consideration, what you recommend and suggest for the organization to adopt as the best approaches in addressing problems. So that's the end of your needs analysis report and the end of your first assignment. And please spend time consulting these marking tables. It will tell you the standard quality requirements of your report. So I won't be discussing it now because they are fully written here, so you know where the marks will be distributed and what's the requirement. So when you draft your assignment, check the table. After you develop the drafted assignment, check the table again to make sure you have met the requirements. So roughly, the format of design the needs analysis report would look like. That was the format drafted in 2014 and still applied to today. So you should, in the first page, you should have the subject name, number of assignment, your student name, your student ID, and also the total words excluding references. I just want to mention in the table that detailing the needs analysis steps, there's no limitation of words. So 1,500 words in total is just a guide. It's excluding the word counts of the tables, because it depending on the complexity of the needs analysis. The table you develop could be for some students could be really long, and for some students could be much shorter. So that table is not subject to words limit. So therefore, you just need to provide a word limit, the total words of your assignment, excluding reference. So I know roughly, how many words that will go into gone into the table, because all other sessions are subject to word limit. So the problem statements, that's where you start, no more than 150 words, and then your needs analysis plans. Please use past tense, because you should have already completed it. And the identify problems and service gaps, so no more than 500 words. And tested intervention solutions, where you learn from the literature and past experience, no more than 500 words. Then you're having a proposed most appropriate intervention solutions, no more than 200 words. And referencing, and please use APA style for your referencing. And if you're not sure what the style should be, check the University Referencing Guide. It has got detailed guide for APA referencings. So that's a requirement for your first assignment. And I would like to show you just an example of a really good quality needs analysis report prepared by a student in the past. So it has got the title, it has got student ID and days. So in the introduction, so it stated what the problem they found that prompted the student to conduct the needs analysis. So there must be something, an issues that you identify. So this is what the student identified. There's some issues widely available, and that prompted the student to conduct the needs analysis. So that's the introduction of the problem, and that's the analysis plan. So in the column is where the data source, and in the middle column he used the method of collection, data collection, and on the other column, in the other column, and we explain whether the data is when the data is not available or available. So for this, and that means the data is available, and for this explain why those data are not available. So very similar to the table here. The table here, so that was the this was the past requirement. So according to the table here, you need to give a number of the steps, time frame, that means between when and when that you actually access those informations, and then you explain the types of information. Okay, so that's where the first column in the student here, the type of information and data to collect, and that the sources that you collected this information. So if the information, there's any sources are not available, then you should include additional column here to explain why they're not available. Okay? Because depending on the size, so maybe all sources available, then you don't need this additional column. So please make sure you use this table and you add additional column if there's any sources are not available or there's limitation of sources you can access. So this is what the student developed, because each year the requirements are different. So it details what the data is aiming to collect, and also which website, key website, what major literature, and what major databases that the student access to those informations. For example, including need to understand organization priorities, and then also access the organization's annual report. So any major sources you need to provide. Simply say database, library database, or quote, or Medline. This is not a data source. A data source means you actually access, for example, if the data come from a specific journal in this area, then you need to mention the journals that focus on this area, because it's not all Medlines that provide you the data, but there have to be some focus. If you access ABS, then you can't just say ABS. Which session ABS? If it's ABS talking about the demographic, talking about the specific demographic of a certain location, so you need to specify those areas. And if you access any report of the Department of Health of Victoria, then you need to say access any report of the Department of Health. And if you access online, then you put it online, the website as well. Okay. So that means in the middle table, it clearly identify the sources of where those key data that you aim to collect, that you collected them. So this is what you need to write down. It is not perfect, but it's clear and close to what's required. Then is a third session. It's the findings of the needs analysis, the confirmation of the problems, and the service gaps. So in this report, is number 3 and 4 should be combined as the part 2 as required. The first part of part 2 is 500 words. Okay, so in the student even develop a table to look at the service capacity and service availability to addressing the problems. Okay, so if this is something you want to do, make sure you move it as a appendix or attachment so that it won't be counted as a word count, because the table itself doesn't tell the story. Table can help you to demonstrate your story, so you still need to write it into words and sentences to describe what you found in the table, so the table can be used as appendix. And pay attention to the word limit. So this is the recommended solutions. But your requirement is you need to have 2 different sessions. You have 500 words to look at what you learned from the literature in addressing those problems. And then you have the last session here, recommended solutions, means the solutions you recommended in consideration in the context. So for this report, what they found in the literature was merged into recommended solutions. But in your report, you need to have a separate sessions, what you found in the literature, and then what you would like to recommend. Okay. So you can freeze the screen to read. Sorry, I cannot provide hard copy or electronic copy on LMS because it's someone's work, but you can read it. So please you can take some notes if you're not clear what to write, how to write. Make sure that you do not copy the word that's been done by others. So this just serve as a guide. You need to pay particular attention to the actual marking tables for 2018. But this is a good example of what they did, of various options that can consider, and then you provide the references at the end. Okay. So if you have any problems, please use the question and answer link developed for first assignment rather than the overall question and answer for the whole class.